There are a couple ways you can split your screen on an iPad or see multiple apps at the same time. It is a bit tricky. A lot of it is just timing and how long you hold your finger against the screen, but I'm going to show you a couple of methods. The first step is always to open one of the apps you want to see. So in this demo, I'm going to use the Notability app and the Notes app on my iPad. So I'm going to start by opening Notability. And let's say I'm using this app and I want to see a second app. What I do is swipe up from the bottom of the screen and hold my finger on the iPad. And so you can see the bar of apps that appears at the bottom. If you just swipe your finger up and you don't hold, you can see that it just takes you right back to the home screen. So it's important to swipe up and then keep your finger there for a second so that these apps stay. You can also tell that I only have access to the apps that are in this bar. So I'm going to go back to the home screen and show you how to add apps. So let's say Google Classroom is one of the apps I want to be able to split my screen with. I would have to hold down on the Google Classroom app and drag it down in the left side of this bar. And now whenever I swipe up, so if I go into Notability, swipe up and hold, now I can access Google Classroom. The left side of the bar, you can see that kind of center line on this apps bar. On the left side are the apps that I've put there, and on the right side of the apps are other recently visited apps. So the apps on the left only change when I pull more apps in or take apps out, but the apps on the right will change depending on which apps I've seen most recently. But now that I've dragged this dock up onto my screen, the next step is to hold down on one of these icons and drag it up onto the screen. Again, timing is everything. If I just tap one of these apps, it will open and take over the screen, which is not what I want. Instead, what I want to do is, after I pull this up, I want to touch and hold on this app and then drag it up onto the screen. And you just really need to practice that to get the timing right. So I'm going to try it again. Drag up from the bottom of the screen. I'm going to hold down on another app and then pull it over onto the screen. So now you can see I have a floating window on top of Notability. There are bars at the very top and the very bottom of those floating apps. If I grab the bar at the top that is a gray bar, a short gray bar, if I touch and hold on that, I can move this floating app back and forth to one side or the other. The bottom black longer line, if I press on that and then drag to the center of the screen, now you can see it's showing me the two apps that I have open. I can either switch to the Notes app simply by touching it, or again, I'm going to touch on that black line and drag up to the middle of the screen. I can also swipe away these apps. So I'm just going to touch and swipe up to get rid of them. So that's one way you can see two apps at the same time, is simply to swipe up, drag an app over to one side or the other, and that will appear as a floating window. The other way is to truly split my screen. So again, I touch and hold on an app in that bar, and then instead of just letting go, I'm going to drag it over to the side, and you can see how the screen changes. When I let go now, the screen is actually split with that black line down the center, which I can touch on and drag to one side or the other. And so you might want to split them equally right in the center, or you might want to see more of one or another. I like that dragging from side to side simply because I can work in one screen a little bit bigger, and then when I do want to switch over, I can make that screen the bigger screen. To get out of this again, so I have those small gray bars at the top, I can drag these around. You can see that now, instead of being split, by dragging that gray bar, now it is hovering over or floating over the second screen. And if you remember now, I can use that black bar at the bottom of the window, swipe that up to the center, and then I can just swipe these apps away. So a little bit tricky, a lot of different skills involved. So you can try it out. A lot of this is simply playing with it until you feel that you're skilled enough at it to actually do it with an audience. But it is possible to do all of those things. As always, let me know if you have questions.